Silent Hill 4: The Room released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. From what I can find, it was originally intended to be a sort of spin-off of the Silent Hill games, still part of the same series, but going in a bit of a different direction. But Konami said that it had to be a direct sequel to the rest of the games. It isn't talked about even close to as much as the first 3 games, despite being made by a lot of the same people, using the same name, Team Silent. And I've been meaning to play this game for a while, so let's check it out. Silent Hill 4 is about Henry Thompson, who's stuck in his apartment, room 302. His door has been locked from the inside and no one can hear him call for help. But he finds a hole in his bathroom that takes him to a different place as he begins to uncover a plot about a strange murder case that happened years ago. So while the stories of the first 3 Silent Hill games are quite personal, and 2 especially being a weird psychological journey through the minds and backgrounds of various characters, Silent Hill 4 makes me feel more detached from the story. Your objectives in the first 3 games are closely tied to the protagonist's journey. Harry wants to find his daughter, James wants to know how he got a letter from his deceased wife. Heather wants to uncover her ties to the town and she wants revenge for what happened to someone close to her. In this game though, you're just a guy and maybe I'm just stupid, but I couldn't really figure out his connection to the story outside of the fact that there's a serial killer from years ago that's back and he wants to sacrifice you for some ritual because you happen to align with like one of the 21 people that he has to kill or something, and you have like a specific meaning in the ritual, but as far as I could tell they didn't really explain why you have that meaning. Don't get me wrong, the story isn't bad. I just don't think it's even close to as good as the previous games. While the central mystery is really interesting, I found the characters to just be very mediocre. I have hardly anything to say about them. The main characters, Henry and Eileen, are good people, but that's kind of where it ends. The first 3 games feature tank controls that, in my opinion, work pretty well. Silent Hill 4 keeps the series changing camera angles, but ditches the tank controls, and the results are a little messy. You can't freely move your camera, but you can reposition it with the left trigger. Well, sometimes you can. But the thing is, I can't stop running into walls in this game. Every time the camera changes, it just takes me completely by surprise. And since I don't have my trusty tank controls, it sends me flying in a random direction, sometimes straight into an enemy. It makes me wish that they just gave you more of a full-on third-person perspective, and maybe be more selective about when they reposition the camera. The game is split into 2 gameplay styles: a first-person view when you're in your room, and a more traditional third-person view when you're exploring the worlds. When you explore the first world, called the Subway World, you meet a lady named Cynthia who thinks this is all a dream. After exploring a bit, you get separated as you head back into the hole and go to your room again. In previous Silent Hill games, you'd have to pause the game to change weapons, selecting key items and stuff like that. They wanted to streamline this by not having you pause the game and instead using the D-pad and pressing the square button in real time to switch weapons. But it's really clunky and awkward when you're mid-combat and you have to change weapons real quick. I find that I keep equipping and unequipping stuff. Also, you've got a total of 10 item slots. Every time it's filled up, you gotta go back to your room and put items away in this box. Thing is, 10 bullets take up 1 slot. If you're carrying a lot of ammo, that just eats up your inventory. And if you shoot, say, 8 times and have 2 bullets left, then reload, just those 2 bullets will take up an entire inventory slot. And when you shoot your remaining bullets, you'll automatically reload and you'll just have those 2 bullets that you didn't use before. Even if you have plenty more ammo, he will just put in 2 bullets. I once found myself shooting just a few rounds to get them out of my inventory so I could pick up a key item without having to go all the way back to the room. And speaking of which, every time you do that, you see this cutscene where you go through the hole, and then there's a cutscene when you wake up, and then you have to walk out of your bedroom into the living room, open the box and put in the items. Then you go back to the hole, watch the cutscene, and now you can progress. Well, once you get back to wherever you're at. It's so fucking annoying. Yeah, you can skip the cutscenes, but you still have to watch a little bit of them every time and go through multiple loading screens. Every time you go back to the room, you start to heal automatically. So I wasn't picking up a lot of healing items as I went on, because I rarely ever needed them, and I wanted to conserve my very limited inventory space. But halfway through the game, you get this message saying that the air feels heavy, and now you can't heal in the room anymore, meaning that I made the game harder for myself. Also, there are ghosts in the worlds you explore, which is interesting. I don't know if it's just me, but ghosts kind of feel out of place in Silent Hill. I'm so used to the monsters being, monstrous, and usually their visual designs represent something related to the protagonist, and the world becomes a reflection of their inner struggles. But in Silent Hill 4, you just got ghosts, and I don't like it. Maybe it makes more sense than I give it credit credit for, but it just feels wrong to me. Anyways, the ghosts will damage you just by being close, and they're incredibly annoying to deal with. You can't kill them, but you can stab a sword into the ground and keep them stuck there. But if you want to reuse that sword later, you have to pick it up again and the ghost will come after you. You can get the ghosts off your back by using a medallion, but it only works temporarily and then it'll break. There's also these candles that I just didn't understand how to use. Turns out you really need those badly later in the game because the ghosts will start to haunt you in your home, and if you don't deal with them, you can get a worse ending, and also they damage you. So you gotta place the candles down to get them to fuck off. I honestly really like exploring the main areas of Silent Hill 4, but the latter half of the game is just backtracking through all of them all over again. In Silent Hill games, usually when you're done with an area, you're done. You move on to the next thing. And you'll have to escort Eileen around after she's almost killed by the killer who's after you. She's injured, so she can barely do anything. She can get stuck behind enemies, and if you run too far, you'll outrun her. So to recap, the latter half of the game is entirely backtracking while being an escort mission with annoying hauntings that you have to deal with every time you want to go back to your room just to save or swap items. As the game went on, I got so bored. It's not a bad game, but Jesus fuck is it annoying to play. The story is just really strange. It's basically about a kid who was abandoned by his family and wanted to find them again. He became obsessed with a cult called The Order, which we've met in the first and third games, and he wanted to complete a ritual where 21 people representing 21 different things had to be killed, so he could be with his mother again. Although the serial killer had killed himself years ago because he was one of the ones who had to die to complete the sacrifice, and his ghost is back to finish the job. And it just feels odd. It doesn't feel like a Silent Hill story to me, even if it has connections to the previous games. Like Eileen having a plush of the bunny from the third game. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a peephole in your room where you can watch Eileen, and I just don't get the point of it. Like, you can watch her sleep or watch TV. It's just fucking creepy. Like, just from a gameplay perspective, it doesn't add much. You can just spy on a cute girl. Like, what the fuck? It's used in one part where you have to keep checking to make sure she's okay because you found out that the killer's after her too. But even then, I didn't feel like it added anything. It doesn't really matter if you check up on her, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyways, it's just kind of weird and creepy. Also, you can keep looking out your own door and seeing tenants trying to get a hold of you or talking about you, which I do think is pretty cool. Anyways, eventually you lose Eileen again, and you have to go find her, kill the killer, and then save her. And you get a short ending cutscene, and that's it. This game is not terrible, but I don't think it's good. It has some cool ideas and really unique scares. I can't tell you how much this freaked me out the first time I saw it. But it's not a fun game to play, and the story and characters are not that special in my opinion. It's a weird one. I really wanted to love it, but I came out just feeling really mixed. I admire how different it tried to be, but I really didn't feel like it worked out. I'm not at all surprised that this game's so much less talked about because honestly, I just don't think it's even close to the first 3 games, especially 2. I could talk about Silent Hill 2 for hours, just how much I love the characters, the story, and the soundtrack, and while Silent Hill 4 has some good tracks, it's not close on that front either, but that doesn't mean I don't think this game is worth playing. I would say give it a shot if you're a huge survival horror fan, because there's still some good here, and I still had fun at times, and I still got scared at times. There was just a bit too much frustration involved for me to fully enjoy the experience, and so it ends up just being kind of an okay game that I just don't have anything else to say about.